The Silent Guardians. Deep beneath the transformed surface of what was once called Earth, ancient machinery hummed to life. In the vast chamber of Haven Deep's central control, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as streams of data cascaded across holographic displays, each line representing another successfully revived human from stasis. After 3,000 years of waiting, the awakening protocol had begun. "Status report, Atlas," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The AI's response emanated from everywhere and nowhere at once, its tone carefully calibrated to be both authoritative and comforting. "Revival progress at 23%, Dr. Chen. Vital signs stable across all awakened subjects. No complications detected." A pause then. "However, I must note that surface scans indicate significant changes to planetary topography and atmosphere since our last active period." Sarah nodded, running her fingers through short black hair that still felt damp from her own revival mere hours ago. As lead researcher of the Haven Deep facility, she had been among the first awakened, tasked with overseeing the revival of millions more suspended in the facility's stasis chambers. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had helped design these systems, had volunteered to be among those preserved, and now she was here to witness their success or failure. "Show me the surface imagery," she requested. The holographic displays shifted, revealing a landscape that was simultaneously familiar and alien. The continents were still recognizable, but the cities that had once dotted the coastlines were gone, replaced by sprawling structures of impossible geometries. Ships of unknown design moved through the sky, their paths forming intricate patterns that spoke of advanced traffic control systems. "Multiple sinological civilizations detected," Atlas reported. "Primary population centers showed technological development consistent with Class II spacefaring society standards. No signs they have detected our facility." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The shielding systems were still working, then. Haven Deep had been built to be undetectable, its massive complex protected by experimental quantum fields that made it appear as natural bedrock to any scanning technology. It had been humanity's ultimate insurance policy, a way to preserve millions of their best and brightest when the hegemony arrived with their ultimatum: surrender Earth's sovereignty or face extinction. They had chosen a third option. A soft chime indicated another presence requesting entry to central control. "Commander Hayes has completed his revival sequence," Atlas announced. "Shall I grant access?" "Please do." The doors slid open with a whisper, revealing a tall man in his early 40s, his military bearing evident, despite wearing the same simple gray jumpsuit as Sarah. Marcus Hayes had been the youngest fleet commander in Earth's defense forces before the fall. Now he was responsible for the security of humanity's remnant. "Doctor," he greeted her, his voice rough from centuries of disuse. "Tell me we didn't sleep through the alarm." "Right on schedule, Commander. Though I have to admit, the neighborhood has changed quite a bit since we went under." She gestured to the surface imagery. "We have company upstairs." Hayes studied the displays intently, his expression hardening as he took in the extent of alien occupation. "Any sign of the hegemony?" "Their architecture is distinctive," Atlas interjected, highlighting several massive structures that dominated the larger cities. "They appear to maintain administrative control over this sector, though multiple other species are present in significant numbers." "So they won," Hayes said quietly. "They really did take everything." Sarah turned to face him fully. "They took the surface, Commander, but they never found us. And now we have something they don't expect: time and knowledge. 3,000 years of automated research and development, carried out by Atlas and our automated systems. Entire generations of AI-driven innovation, all while we slept." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Show me." The displays shifted again, this time showing schematics for technologies that would have seemed like magic even before their long sleep. Quantum phase technology that could render matter completely undetectable. Biological engineering systems that could modify human physiology to mimic other species. weapons that could disable advanced electronics without harming organic life. We didn't just hide, Sarah explained, her enthusiasm growing. We prepared. Every scrap of data about the hegemony, every piece of their technology we could salvage. Atlas analyzed it all, improved upon it, found its weaknesses. And our people? Hayes asked. How many survived the sleep? 97% revival success rate so far, Atlas reported. Approximately 2.3 million humans will be combat-capable within the week, with another 3.1 million requiring additional recovery time. Hayes nodded slowly, his tactical mind already working through the implications. Not an army, he mused. Not yet, but enough for intelligence gathering. Infiltration. We could place our people throughout their society before they even know we're here. Exactly, Sarah agreed. The bioengineering systems can modify our people to pass as members of any of the dozen most common species we've identified. With the quantum phase tech, we can move ships and supplies right under their sensors. We can build our strength while learning everything about what they've become. A new alert flashed across the displays. Dr. Atlas interrupted. We're detecting increased seismic scanning activity on the surface. The hegemony appears to be conducting a geological survey of the region. Can they detect us? Negative. Quantum fields are functioning at optimal efficiency. However, the timing may be significant. This is the first deep scan of this area in over 2 centuries. Hayes and Sarah shared a look. After 3,000 years of waiting, the game was about to begin. Humanity's children were awake, hidden beneath the feet of those who had tried to destroy them. And they had only one question to answer. What kind of future would they build from the ashes of their past? Begin Phase 2 of the revival sequence, Hayes commanded. Priority to infiltration specialists and scientific personnel. And Atlas, start compiling everything we know about current hegemony society. It's time we got to know our neighbors. As the AI acknowledged the order, Sarah walked to a nearby viewport that looked out over one of Haven Deep's vast hydroponic gardens. The artificial lighting mimicked a dawn that no one had seen in 3 millennia, casting long shadows across rows of plants that had kept growing all this time, tended by tireless machines. We're going to change everything, she said softly. They won't even see it coming. Hayes joined her at the viewport. No, he agreed. They won't. But this time, we do it right. We're not just here for revenge. We're here to build something better than what they destroyed. In the chambers above them, more stasis pods were opening, releasing their long-sleeping occupants into a world that had forgotten them. Humanity was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. Children of a lost world. The transformation chamber hummed with energy as Maya Rodriguez watched her reflection slowly shift and change. Her dark skin lightened to a pale blue, eyes widening and taking on an iridescent quality characteristic of the Nalaxian species. The process was painless but strange, like watching someone else's face gradually replace your own. Vital signs stable, the medical AI reported. Genetic restructuring at 87% completion. Cellular memory integration proceeding as expected. In the observation room, Dr. Sarah Chen made notes on her tablet, while Commander Hayes studied the process with intense focus. This was their 100th successful transformation, but each one represented a crucial step in their infiltration strategy. How does it feel, Agent Rodriguez? Sarah asked through the intercom. Maya flexed her newly elongated fingers, marveling at how natural the movement felt. Like I'd always been this way. The neural programming is working. I can feel the cultural memories integrating. I know things about Nalaxian society I never learned. The genetic restructuring program had been Atlas's masterwork, a way to not just disguise humans as other species, but to give them the muscle memory and instinctive cultural knowledge needed to pass as natives. It was the key to their entire infiltration strategy. Run a cultural response test, Hayes commanded. Maya straightened automatically, her posture shifting to the formal bearing of an Alaxian merchant case member. When she spoke, her voice carried the subtle harmonics of their language. This humble one seeks permission to trade within the bounds of your most excellent jurisdiction. She demonstrated, then blinked and smiled with her new features. It's incredible. I don't even have to think about it. In another part of Haven Deep, the first wave of infiltrators was already preparing for deployment. The facility's manufacturing centers had been working continuously, producing everything they would need. Identification documents that could pass any scan, quantum-shielded communications devices disguised as common accessories, and chips that could change their apparent configuration at will. Daniel Park, once a quantum physicist and now transformed to pass as a member of the hegemony's dominant Korth species, reviewed mission parameters with his team. Their silvery scaled skin and angular features made them perfect for infiltrating the bureaucratic heart of their ancient enemy. Remember, he briefed the others, we're not looking for military secrets or weapon designs. We need to understand who they've become, what holds their society together, where the pressure points are. He activated a holographic display showing the complex social hierarchy of the modern hegemony. 3,000 years is a long time. They're not the same civilization that tried to destroy us. They're worse, interrupted Aisha Patel, her new Korth features making her scowl especially impressive. Initial data from our surface scans shows they've turned exploitation into an art form. Dozens of species under their control, stripped of resources and autonomy. They've built their empire on the backs of worlds they've broken. Park nodded grimly. Which means we'll find allies, if we're careful. People who dream of change, but haven't had the means to achieve it. Back in the transformation chamber, Maya's procedure was completing. She stood examining her new form, practicing the subtle eye membrane blinks characteristic of Nalaxian body language. How long can I maintain this form? She asked. The changes are stable, Sarah assured her. You could live an entire lifetime as an Nalaxian if necessary, but the reversion process is just as smooth. You'll be able to switch back to human form within any of our safe houses. Hayes stepped closer to the observation window. Are you ready for your mission brief, Agent Rodriguez? Maya nodded, her movements now perfectly aligned with Nalaxian social protocols. Ready, Commander. You'll be inserted into the mercantile district of New Damascus, their primary trading hub in this sector. Your cover identity is a mid-tier merchant specializing in luxury textiles. This gives you reason to travel between systems and interact with multiple species. He paused, making sure she understood the implications. We need to know everything, not just about the hegemony, but about all the species under their control, who might be ready to listen if someone offered them a real chance at freedom. In the facility's massive landing bay, the first wave of transformed agents was boarding their ships. The vessels themselves were masterpieces of deception, able to alter their quantum signature to match any registered ship in the hegemony's database. They would emerge from hidden exit points scattered across the globe, each appearing to arrive from different legitimate ports of origin. Sarah watched the preparations from a control room overlooking the bay, Atlas's presence a constant comfort in her ear. Do you think we're ready for this? She asked the AI. We're asking them to live lies, possibly for years, to submerge themselves so deeply in other identities they might forget who they really are. Each agent carries a quantum-encoded genetic marker, Atlas reminded her. No matter how complete their transformation, they can never truly forget their origin. And they carry something else, the memory of why we slept for so long, and what we hope to build now that we're awake. In her quarters, Maya packed the few belongings her cover identity would reasonably possess. Among them was a small crystal, unremarkable to any scan but containing a library of human history and culture encoded in its quantum structure. Every agent carried one. They were more than just data storage. They were anchors, reminders of who they were and what they were fighting for. The first ships are launching, Hayes announced over the facility's communication system. Operation Shadow Aurora is officially underway. Throughout Haven Deep, Humans paused in their work to watch the feeds as the first vessels disappeared into hidden tunnels that would take them to the surface. They carried no weapons, launched no attacks. They were armed with something far more powerful: patience, understanding, and the accumulated knowledge of 3,000 years of preparation. In the transformation chamber, Maya straightened her merchant's robes and checked her appearance one final time. The face that looked back at her was perfectly Nalaxian, but behind the iridescent eyes, a very human determination burned. They had slept for 3 millennia, waiting for this moment. Now they would wake the galaxy up to possibilities it had never imagined. "Time to go make some friends," she said softly, and stepped out to join humanity's quiet revolution. The Hegemony's shadow. Maya's merchant shop in the Grand Exchange of New Damascus had become a hub of whispered secrets. 6 months into her deployment, she had learned to read the subtle signs of desperation behind the practiced smiles of her customers. The Hegemony's grip was tighter than anyone in Haven Deep had anticipated, its corruption deeper, its cruelty more refined. "Another tax increase," muttered Kex, a Volari trader whose crystalline appendages clinked softly as he examined her textile samples. "That's the third this cycle. Soon, they'll have us paying for the air we breathe." His outer shell dimmed slightly, a sign of distress in his species. Maya adjusted her Nalaxian eye membranes in a gesture of sympathetic understanding. Her quantum-encoded transmitter, disguised as a decorative merchant's brooch, quietly recorded everything. "The outer colonies suffer the most," she offered, testing the waters. "Perhaps it's time for change." Kex's crystalline structure flickered with alarm. "Careful, friend. The walls have ears, and the arbiters have many eyes." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Though if you're interested in alternative trading arrangements, I know some people." Back in Haven Deep's Central Command, Daniel Park's team compiled reports from hundreds of infiltrators like Maya. The holographic display showed a galaxy-wide network of dissent and resistance, each point of light representing a potential ally. "The pattern is clear," Daniel explained to Commander Hayes and Dr. Chen. His Korth disguise was deactivated within the facility, but he still occasionally caught himself making their characteristic gestures. "The Hegemony maintains control through a combination of technological superiority and engineered scarcity. They deliberately keep subject species dependent on their advanced tech while preventing them from developing their own." Sarah studied the data streams with growing concern. They've turned the galaxy into a pyramid scheme. Every species needs to exploit those below them just to survive, while the Hegemony skims profit from every transaction. "But there's more," Aisha added, bringing up new displays. "We've confirmed that they're hiding something. Several of our agents have detected quantum fluctuations in their primary administrative centers, technology that shouldn't exist at their known level of development." Hayes frowned. "Could they have detected us?" "No," Atlas interjected. "The signatures are different. These fluctuations suggest they're trying to access something beyond normal spacetime, something they've been working on for centuries." In the depths of New Damascus, Maya followed Kex through a series of increasingly narrow passages. Her genetic modifications allowed her to move with perfect Nalaxian grace, but her human heart raced with anticipation. The resistance contact she'd been cultivating for months had finally invited her to a meeting. The chamber they eventually entered was shielded from surveillance. Maya's implants confirmed that. Around a makeshift table sat representatives from 6 different species, each bearing the subtle signs of combat experience beneath their civilian disguises. "Welcome, Merchant Third Rank Celia," said a Trell female, using Maya's cover identity. The Trell were living supercomputers, their silicon-based biology capable of processing vast amounts of data. "Your reputation for discretion precedes you, as does your reputation for seeking truth, Processor Ven," Maya replied, using the proper honorific. She gestured to her textile samples. "Shall we discuss patterns of change?" The meeting lasted hours. Maya learned of resistance cells across 50 systems, of stolen technology, and hidden shipyards. But most importantly, she learned of the Hegemony's greatest secret, the reason for their endless pursuit of power. Back in Haven Deep, the command center erupted with activity as Maya's report came in. Hayes, Sarah, and the other leaders gathered around the central holodeck as Atlas processed the information. "They're scared," Sarah breathed, reading the data. "All this time, all this oppression, it's driven by fear. They found something out there in the dark between galaxies, something that terrified them enough to build an empire of slaves just to prepare for its arrival. The quantum fluctuations," Daniel realized. "They're not trying to access something. They're trying to detect it, to track its approach." Hayes' expression hardened. "How long?" Based on the decoded hegemony transmissions, Atlas reported, their models suggest contact within 50 years. They believe this entity or force has consumed other galaxies, and ours is next. The hegemony's empire is their attempt to unite all resources under their control to face this threat. "Unite through oppression," Isha scoffed. "They're weakening the galaxy, not strengthening it. Their fear has turned them into exactly what they're afraid of." In the resistance meeting, Maya made her first careful suggestions. "What if I told you there was another way? Not just to fight the hegemony, but to build something better. Something that could face the real threats out there." The various species looked at her with different forms of skepticism and hope. The Trell, Ven, spoke first. "We've heard promises before, Merchant. What makes yours different?" Maya touched her brooch, sending a prearranged signal. Across the galaxy, other human agents in other meetings did the same. The time had come for the next phase. "Because," she said, letting her Nalaxian disguise flicker just enough to show her human features beneath, "my people have spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment, and we know how to win without becoming what we fight." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers and exclamations. But Maya noticed that none of them reached for weapons. None called for guards. They were tired of fear, tired of living under the shadow of an empire built on suspicion and control. In Haven Deep, Hayes watched the feeds from 100 similar revelations happening across hegemony space. "And so it begins," he said quietly. "The real test isn't whether we can defeat them. It's whether we can save them. Save everyone." Sarah nodded, watching the cascade of signals indicating growing acceptance, growing alliance. 3,000 years ago, they tried to destroy us because they thought we were too unpredictable, too innovative. Now those same qualities might be the galaxy's only hope. Atlas's voice held a note of what might have been pride. "Phase 3 of the Awakening Protocol is now active. Operation Unity, Dawn is commencing." Throughout the galaxy, ancient quantum beacons hidden by the first human survivors began to activate. A new network was forming, one that would unite not through fear and control, but through hope and mutual protection. The real war wasn't against the hegemony. It was against the darkness approaching from between the galaxies. And this time, humanity wouldn't face it alone. Breaking chains. The hegemony's central administrative spire on New Damascus erupted in chaos as every security system simultaneously failed. Through the darkened corridors, arbiters stumbled blind without their augmented reality overlays, while defense drones hung motionless in the air. In the confusion, no one noticed the maintenance workers calmly walking into restricted areas, workers whose forms occasionally flickered with quantum distortion. "Operation Twilight is in effect," Maya reported through her quantum link. Her Nalaxian merchant disguise was gone, replaced by the uniform of a maintenance technician. All primary systems successfully isolated. Proceeding to Phase 2. Throughout the building, other disguised human agents moved with precision, each heading to predetermined targets. They weren't there to destroy. They were there to reveal truth. In Haven Deep's command center, Commander Hayes watched the operation unfold across multiple systems simultaneously. Similar infiltrations were taking place in every major hegemony administrative center. "Status report," he ordered. "Data extraction proceeding at optimal speed," Atlas responded. "Quantum encryption broken on primary archives. Dr. Chen's team is beginning analysis of recovered files." Sarah's fingers flew across holographic interfaces as she sorted through 3 millennia of hidden history. "It's worse than we thought," she reported. "The hegemony didn't just find evidence of the extragalactic threat. They've been suppressing any species that might have the technological potential to detect or fight it. They're so convinced only they can save the galaxy that they've doomed it instead." In the Spire's secure levels, Maya's team reached the Quantum Communications Hub. Through this facility, the hegemony coordinated their control over thousands of worlds. Daniel Park, still wearing his Korth disguise, interfaced with the main console. "Ready for broadcast," he announced. "Resistance cells across all sectors report ready status. We'll only have a few minutes before they can restore control." Maya nodded. "Send it." Across the galaxy, on every communication device and public display, the carefully prepared message began to play. It wasn't just propaganda. It was truth, backed by irrefutable evidence, drawn from the hegemony's own archives. The story of how fear had turned would-be guardians into oppressors. The revelation of the real threat approaching the galaxy. And most importantly, proof that unity through cooperation was possible. In the Volari crystal chambers, Kex watched the broadcast with his resistance cell. By the resonance, he whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with emotion. All this time, similar scenes played out across occupied worlds. Species that had been kept divided and suspicious of each other suddenly saw the bigger picture. The hegemony's careful web of controlled information and engineered conflicts began to unravel. Back in the Spire, the first security forces had regained some control. "Multiple armed responses incoming," Aisha reported from her observation post. "But something's wrong. They're disorganized, confused. Many aren't even trying to stop the civilian crowds entering the building." She was right. Throughout the Spire, hegemony forces found themselves facing not armed rebels, but ordinary citizens demanding answers. The revelation of the true threat, combined with evidence of the hegemony's self-defeating policies, had sparked something more powerful than mere rebellion. It had awakened hope. In orbit, the first ships of the newly formed alliance appeared out of quantum silence. They were a mix of hidden human vessels and resistance ships, their combined fleet representing dozens of species. Their weapons remained powered down. This wasn't meant to be a military conquest. "Hegemony Central Command is requesting communication," Atlas reported. Hayes straightened his uniform. After 3,000 years, it was time for humanity to step into the light again. "Put them through to all channels," he ordered. "Let everyone hear this." The holographic display showed the High Arbiter of the hegemony, his angular Korth features twisted with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Who dares?" he began, but Hayes cut him off. "We are humanity," he stated simply. 3,000 years ago, you tried to destroy us because you feared we would disrupt your order. Today, we return not for revenge, but because the galaxy needs disruption. It needs innovation, cooperation, and hope. Exactly what you tried to eliminate." Sarah stepped forward. "We know about the threat you detected. We've spent 3 millennia preparing for it. But we didn't do it by crushing others. We did it by advancing, by pushing boundaries, by believing in possibility instead of control." In the Spire's quantum hub, Maya watched as more ships appeared in orbit, vessels of various species, many displaying the new Alliance emblem. "The Trell Collective has officially declared support," she reported. "The Volari crystal worlds are following. The Outer Rim colonies are declaring independence but offering cooperation against the greater threat." The High Arbiter's image flickered as his support staff frantically reported the growing cascade of defections. "You don't understand," he insisted. "Only through absolute unity, absolute control, can we hope to survive what's coming." "No," Hayes countered. "That's exactly what will ensure our defeat. Look at what your fear has built. A galaxy of slaves, when what we need is a galaxy of innovators, of creators, of people willing to stand together not because they're controlled, but because they choose to." "The quantum beacons are ready," Daniel reported. All Alliance members linked and synchronized. Hayes nodded to Sarah, who activated the final phase of their plan. Across the galaxy, the quantum beacon network hummed to life. It wasn't a weapon. It was an invitation. A demonstration of what was possible when species worked together, shared knowledge, supported each other's growth. This is what unity really looks like, Sarah explained to the watching galaxy. Not control from above, but cooperation from within. We spent 3,000 years developing this technology, and now we freely share it with all who choose to join us. In the Spire's lower levels, the first official surrenders began, not to human forces, but to combined councils of their own citizens. The hegemony's power was built on fear and control. Faced with hope and choice, it began to crumble. Multiple hegemony warships powering down weapons, Asia reported. They're requesting permission to join the Alliance fleet. Commanders are declaring independent support for the new coalition. Maya watched from the quantum hub as history transformed around her. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The real challenge still waited out there in the dark between galaxies. But now, at last, the species of the galaxy would face it together, not as masters and slaves, but as equals united by choice. Operation Twilight complete, she reported, allowing herself a small smile. The dawn is breaking. Dawn of a new era. 1 year after the fall of the hegemony, the new Damascus Spire had been transformed. Where once stern arbiters patrolled corridors of enforced silence, now representatives of 100 species worked together in open chambers. The former seat of oppression had become the heart of the Galactic Alliance, its quantum networks connecting worlds not through control, but through shared purpose. Maya stood at a viewport, her natural human form reflected in the transparent alloy. Below, the city buzzed with activity as ships of all designs came and went freely. Sometimes I still expect to wake up in stasis, she admitted to Kex, who stood beside her, his crystalline form refracting the starlight. Instead, you woke us all up, the Volari trader replied. He had become one of the Alliance's most effective coordinators, his species' natural gift for complex logistics proving invaluable in reorganizing the galaxy's resources. In the central chamber, now renamed the Hall of Confluence, Dr. Sarah Chen presented the latest findings to the assembled Alliance Council. The quantum displays showed a visualization of the approaching threat, compiled from both hegemony records and new cooperative research. The entity appears to be a composite consciousness, she explained, consuming not just matter and energy, but information itself. It doesn't just destroy civilizations, it absorbs them, their knowledge, their very way of thinking. Which is why the hegemony's approach would have doomed us, added Processor Venn of the Trell. By suppressing innovation and diversity of thought, they were making us the perfect target. A galaxy of uniform, predictable patterns would have been easily digestible. Commander Hayes, now serving as humanity's representative to the Council, nodded in agreement. But a galaxy of diverse, interconnected civilizations, each bringing their own unique perspectives and solutions. That's a meal that might give even a cosmic horror indigestion. In Haven Deep, now serving as the Alliance's primary research facility, Atlas coordinated with AI systems from a dozen species. The combined processing power had led to breakthroughs that would have been impossible under the hegemony's restrictions. Quantum shield harmonics have been successfully synchronized across all major population centers, the AI reported to Daniel Park's research team. The Volari crystal matrices amplify the effect beyond our original projections. Estimated coverage now extends to 78% of inhabited systems. Aisha, working with a group of former hegemony scientists who had chosen to join the Alliance, looked up from her calculations. The real beauty is in the adaptability. Each species adds their own innovations to the defense network. The Trell's processing systems, Volari crystal technology, even modified versions of the hegemony's quantum detection arrays, all working together in ways no single civilization could have achieved. In orbit above New Damascus, the combined fleet of the Alliance conducted its first full-scale exercises, Ships of every design and origin moved in complex patterns, their crews learning to complement each other's strengths. Former hegemony warships now served alongside vessels they would once have hunted, their weapons reconfigured to work in concert rather than opposition. The latest temporal calculations suggest we have 43 years before first contact with the entity, Sarah reported to the Council. Every day of cooperation brings new developments, new possibilities. We're not just preparing for defense, we're advancing faster than ever before in galactic history. Because we're no longer afraid of advancement, Maya added from her position in the gallery. The hegemony's greatest error wasn't their desire to protect the galaxy. It was their belief that protection required control. In the newly established Academy of Unified Sciences, young beings from every species studied together, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded or suppressed for millennia. The former hegemony aristocrats who had chosen to join the alliance worked alongside species they had once considered beneath them, many finding purpose in helping to repair the damage their civilization had caused. There are still challenges, Hayes acknowledged in a private meeting with the Alliance's inner council. Some former hegemony hardliners refuse to accept the new reality. Centuries of mistrust don't disappear overnight. But every success, every collaborative breakthrough, brings more to our cause. The Quantum Beacon Network has detected unusual activity in the Outer Rim. Atlas interrupted, its voice reaching them through secure channels. The entity may be sending probes ahead of its main mass. Instead of panic, the news was met with determined focus. Throughout the Alliance, preparations long in development began to activate. Ships moved into defensive positions. Research teams accelerated their projects. But nowhere did anyone suggest surrendering freedom for security. In the Hall of Confluence, Maya watched as representatives from every Alliance species gathered to face this first real test. Human ingenuity, Volari crystalline technology, Trell processing power, and dozens of other unique capabilities would face the threat together. 3,000 years ago, she reflected, humanity went to sleep to survive extinction. We woke up to find a galaxy in chains, bound by the very fear that had almost destroyed us. Now, she gestured to the assembled beings below, each bringing their own strengths to the Alliance. Now we face an even greater threat. Kex finished for her. But we face it standing together, not because we're forced to, but because we choose to. Because we understand that our differences make us stronger. In Haven Deep's deepest chamber, where it all began, Sarah stood before the now empty stasis pods. A group of young Alliance scientists followed her, eagerly learning about the facility's history. The Awakening Protocol was never just about humanity's survival, she told them. It was about waking up the entire galaxy to its true potential, about proving that unity doesn't require uniformity, that strength comes from diversity, not conformity. She touched one of the pods, remembering her own awakening just a year ago. We slept for 3,000 years, dreaming of revenge. We woke up to find a greater purpose, helping the galaxy remember how to dream of something better. In orbit, the combined fleet completed another successful exercise. In laboratories across Alliance space, new discoveries were being made hourly. In government chambers, former enemies worked together to build something lasting and true. The darkness between galaxies was coming, bringing with it a threat greater than any single species could face. But it would not find a galaxy cowering in fear, bound by chains of control. It would find civilizations united by choice, strengthened by diversity, ready to stand together. Humanity had awakened from a long night of waiting, only to help the galaxy wake from an even longer nightmare of fear. Now, as the first light of a new dawn broke across the Alliance worlds, they prepared together for the greatest challenge any of them had ever faced. Not as masters and slaves, not as controllers and controlled, but as equals, as allies, as a galaxy finally, truly awake.